I think grief is more difficult to prepare for than pregnancy, because you don't always know how it's going to affect you, and you don't have a place to put it. Or
more than pregnancy. Whoa, Nilly.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't. I've
say that.
But I can't. I'm sorry. I'm old school, but I know I can't have a baby. So how is it? It's different. It's obviously painful, but you're talking emotionally here. Is that what you mean?
Emotionally, and the emotional and mental toll that it takes on a person. Grief isn't something, once you have it, I will say, like becoming a parent, once you are one, once you are a griever, you will never not be a griever. You now have incorporated something into your life that you didn't have before, and you didn't have a platform for it. So if you are grieving with a relationship that you may not have had a lot of hopes and dreams connected into, or one that you had a ton of hopes and dreams connected into, like a child or a spouse, being able to connect with people who are professionals to help you navigate those emotions and embrace them is a way that you can save yourself from feeling disassociated from your feelings, feeling confused, blaming other people. Just how to say, okay, I'm always going to miss this person. Just always going to miss them. I'm still in a relationship with them. I'm always going to miss them. And they're never going to have that relationship in the same way. But how to move through that, because without it, you can become angry. You can hold grudges, and and I'm just going to say, I know you have a question. I've never experienced.
I just want to build on it.
I've never experienced anyone who's ever come to me, nor have I ever heard anyone who has, regardless of their belief, if they cross, they go into a Viking burning, whatever they believe. The person that's passed never wants you to feel bad. They never want you to feel that they're leaving this situation, this earth. However, they're never wanting you to be sad forever. They don't want you to feel bad for them, or to take away from your life and make your life less. They would hope that the life that they led and the relationship that you had with them, you would find a way to always make it improve and make your life better. And so
his life or her life added to your life. That's the hope.
Yeah. Right? And it's the hope, and it's the plan. It's the plan.
Yeah.
The way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be. And how to get through some of those things, and not maybe get as offended when someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry," or doesn't want to say I'm sorry, because they don't say I'm sorry to anything. And how to get around that. And if you're in a funeral line and you're so cleft and you're so emotional that you can't say anything, well, hopefully the person in front of you is a hugger, and maybe you can just hug them hard. Share the sadness.
Yeah.
You can't.
And when you say that, hug them hard, that's the important thing, that hard part. I was actually talking about an event that happened, and my oldest son and I, he's grown now. I've got grandkids, but I was visiting them, and you ever always give a hug, but there was an extra tug. And that's the difference between 5, 6, 7 good thing and 100, man. There's something about that just, it's like a soul is kind of exchanging each other for a minute. I want to add, it's not exactly the same, not to the level, and maybe I'm wrong again. Please, if I'm wrong, I'm very comfortable in that space, because I need to understand. And if I do, obviously the audience out there, because I'm the lowest point, if I get it, anybody can get it. The fact that there is a loss when a relationship comes to an end, and that happens more often in somebody's life, I assume, than I hope, than funerals do. It's different, but a lot of the things you were talking about, the grieving and that feeling that happens, that grieving, that loss, you see girlfriends and and guys, and trying to support each other on things, and the same kind of rules apply, right?
when in a loss of relationship as a loss of a death relationship, loss of
No,
relationship as
sorry.
death?
If you broke up with you've been married for, X number of years and
Yeah.
that went away. It's, you get what I'm asking. I don't want to compare the two, but
I
a
think
lot
so.
of same emotion.
If I'm following correctly, and just jump in, and if I'm not, is that any relationship, and a marriage is one of them, and I think children are one of them. I don't think there's many others in those two, and correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're never wrong. I can
these
tell
are one.
already.
I love being wrong. I live in New England. Sometimes I think it's going to snow and it doesn't, and I'm like, woohoo! But
New
there's
England's
going to be traffic.
beautiful,
There's
man.
not. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
The thing is that we, and it's okay to do so. And I know there's criticism about doing this, but of course you're going to wrap up your hopes and dreams in the future. You're a grandparent. You think your kids are going to when your kids have kids, you're like, oh, I'm going to be this kind of grandpa, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Now, if that child passes, you have a void in your life of where you were, the trajectory and the plan of your life. And the same thing with a marriage. And how are you going to fill those? This is why people say, are you going to get another dog? Are you going to fix that? Because how are you going to fill that void? Do you need to fill the void? Most people do. And if someone, this is not the topic, but people do get angry even if someone took their life, maybe, or someone.
Yeah, that's worse.
Unexpected.
That's worse, isn't it? Because if a son or a daughter, much less a spouse, has that loss. I've been watching some stuff. The great thing about the terrible thing about social media is that it's easy to get bullied, and you get wrapped up, and it's hooked. It becomes obsessions with some people. The great thing about it is you start to understand there's the information, some of it real, some of it not, but the information starts coming out more and more, and you see some of these poor kids. When let's say their dad, mental illness is a big freaking deal. And that's where all that comes from.
But and social media is not therapy, but it is a step into.
No, but you hear the stories of other people, how they felt like when, let's say I took my life and my 5-year-old found that out. It's one thing to lose your father or your mother or your child, which happens a lot too. But it's another thing if that's a suicide, because that's why, you start asking yourself completely different questions.
You do. And sometimes some of those questions are similar when the why questions, which are always horrible, when someone's maybe had a car accident or an overdose. I think the one thing that happens when it's unlike those unexpected, where someone has ripped out your hopes and dreams, and a divorce where someone chose to get rid of your hopes and dreams, is that with a suicide, there's often, why didn't you call me? What was happening here? It's the choices that they made that you wouldn't have wanted them to make. And I think there's more guilt in that. And there still can be anger. You can be very angry at someone that says, if you just waited, this could have been different. And so I think in all those situations where the hopes and dreams or your relationship with them, your planned future relationship. I know there's a lot of people say, oh, you never know what's going to happen. You can never plan, let them be free until they come back. But, you also have to plan, that's why you make retirement and buy insurance. You still plan for things to happen. And if it was an intentional or unintentional, and those are gone, it's not hard to be very angry at the persons or persons that took them away intentionally or unintentionally from you. And how you fill them is very, very hard, because you never will. You have to create a new impression, and create new hopes and dreams, and let that just fill in. I mean, I don't know if that's a good example, but I feel like people are making an impression. And when you have a relationship with someone, they make an impression in your life. And then when they're gone, they've left that impression. And there's some that will fill back in with time, where that new hopes and dreams, new relationships. And there's others that void will always be part of your life. And it will just be part of the terrain that makes up your character.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to come back to that, but along the line earlier in that conversation, I thought about something, and we've talked about we dipped in, and this isn't the subject a little bit, but I've kind of drug us into the gutter here and dipped into a little bit of the what if somebody takes their own life thing. Have you ever seen? You may or may not, because you know how social media, they get algorithms and you see a whole bunch of different stuff that I'll never see and vice versa.
Yeah.
But there's this thing that has impacted me. It hit me. And basically it's a short, I don't know, probably 40-second clip, and it's got music that I can't do right now. So the story's better than the way I'm telling it. Two guys were leaving out. Obviously they hung out that day. Probably they look like they're in their probably early 30s.
Yeah.
And the one guy starts walking towards his car, and his friend at the door said, "Hey, you gonna be okay?" Oh my God, I didn't expect me to get emotional over that. And the guy answered back and said, yeah. And he goes, how do I know that? He goes, because I would embarrass you if I did that, or I would, let you down. The guy wants to leave, but can't. Oh my God, I got to edit this out. I am so sorry. I don't know where that came from, but that hit the shit out of me, man. It just all of a sudden a ton of bricks. So have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen the clip that you're describing, but
I
know those kind of situations. And
oh my God.
And I've had,
that was heartbreaking to know.
It's really interesting because there's shame is amazing, and not being able to manage, and this could easily go into a conversation about expectations and especially young men expectations, but for themselves. But it's amazing how many people I wouldn't be surprised if in that relationship, the one who'd been there for his friend most of the time, the one that always seems to be the stronger one, that always has the answers, they develop a relationship where they can't be the one that's vulnerable, or they feel some kind of a shame of being vulnerable, or they don't even know why they feel the way they do. And so they can't put words to it. I can't describe it, what's happening. But, as a friend, I think I think that there are signs that someone there's definitely signs that someone is withdrawing, maybe planning decision. And suicide's one of the most bravest things a person can do, and in one sense, because I couldn't do it.
It is.
I mean, there's times in my life when I was younger I would love to, and